Good morning. Happy Money Monday here on the Daily Huddle. Welcome back. I'm Zack Otey, and this is my wife, Kimberly. We are your hosts for today's podcast, and we're so excited to be here. We've got some great stuff to talk about.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
So I don't know. I'm a Star Wars fan, right? So I'll see how this lands out there in the world of the Daily Huddle. So what does a Jedi on a budget eat for dessert?
I don't know.
Only one cannoli.
So Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Huddle on this beautiful Monday. I hope it's as pretty where you are as it is over here in Charleston, South Carolina. We're going to talk to you guys today about your numbers. So a big question that we always ask is, do you know your numbers? So we're going to talk about that today. And if you don't know your numbers, we're going to teach you how to learn them and how to understand them and how to put them all together. But before we do that, we have a few questions for you guys today.
Absolutely. So great morning, good week getting started here. So let's get our minds right. Let's see. Call on people as they just pop right in here. Let's see if I can get Molly. What time is it and what are you grateful for today?
Maybe Molly isn't ready
to
say hello.
All right. Well, let's go to Sorrel. What time is it and what are you grateful for today?
Good morning, Zack and Kimberly. The time is now, and I'm grateful for a vigorous workout.
Oh, there you go.
Nice. There's Molly. How are you this morning?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Where are you and who will you hug today?
I am right here, and I will hug my. I'm not sure I will hug, but I'll hug someone.
Someone.
So somebody's in for a good hug.
Just walk up to a stranger and give them a squeeze.
That's right. And just because I love the way she answers these questions a lot of the time, Rashida, how are you?
Good morning, my family. Daily Huddle. I am fine. I am so blessed and not stressed and highly favored.
You always bring a smile to our face with
Fantastic.
your answer of how you are.
So we've been talking a lot the last few weeks about all the craziness going on. And Gio said something a few weeks ago about our personal economy that really kind of got mine and Kimberly's head spinning and thinking about how we can only focus on what we can control. And I thought that was fantastic. So hopefully we can get him on here with us in the next couple of weeks to kind of dive deeper into that concept. But we thought that a lot of people don't know what their numbers are. And I remember there was an ad a few years ago where the squirrels were running around carrying these big numbers or something like that. Maybe it was one of the big financial companies, and there was this number, this retirement number needed, and what do you do with that, and what's your number? And so Kimberly was looking at some things to spotlight and share, and we thought that might be a good place to start. So I'll turn it over to you, and we'll just kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, awesome. So I think to start any conversation, it's actually understanding what your numbers are, right? Like, where are you today? We know where you want to go, or maybe you don't know where you want to go. Every single time we sit down with a new client, whether it's a family or an individual or a new teammate that comes to work with us, whatever that is, and we always talk about their personal financial plan, we always start at the very, very beginning. So I want you guys, I don't have a PowerPoint today because I just want to talk talk through this, but I want you guys to take notes, and I want you to write this down. And if you've never gone through this exercise with yourself, do it, because it's so important to understand where you are and what you want out of life. So I honestly think to begin that conversation, the first part of that conversation is really focusing on your goals and your dreams. All of the numbers don't matter if you don't know where you're going, right? If you don't have some end goal in mind, it doesn't really matter what your numbers are. So every conversation we start out, and some people are like, Kimberly, that's so cheesy. Maybe it is, but I tell people, I'm like, if I could wave a magic wand and tomorrow looks exactly like you want it to look like, what is that? Literally, like if you won the lottery, right? That's the same thing in most people's minds, is that big magical win. If you won the lottery, what would you do? How would things change? If money weren't an issue and you didn't have to worry about it anymore, what does that look like? For some people, they can spout it out quickly, right? They know exactly what they want. They know what color it is. They know what it smells like and what it tastes like and what it feels like. And other people can't. Other people have no idea because they're so busy with life, right? Their life is wagging them, right? They get up every morning, they go to work, they come home, they feed their kids, they throw them to bed, they get up the next morning, they go to work, and we've all been in those moments of that rat race cycle. So whoever you are, wherever you are in your life, take a minute and remove yourself from reality, right? And let's start thinking about, if we weren't talking about reality, I don't like reality. Zack knows this. Sometimes it creates an interesting conversation in our family, right? Because I like my world. But anyway, like seriously think through that and think about what your goals and dreams would be. What did you want to be before you knew that you couldn't, right? Take it all the way back to 3rd grade and think about it from a childlike perspective and really dive in on what do you want? What is your life going to look like? What does that look like for you? And then once you've got that on paper, I think that's the best way to start that exercise, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's
as counterintuitive as it may seem.
So starting with, pie in the sky, wild, what if I could do anything or have anything or whatever, what would I want my life to look like? It really kind of frees the mind up to think about possibilities. And when we talk about money, a lot of times we think about what possibilities we don't have. Mm-hmm. And so our mind goes to a different place. So what we want you to do here is focus on goals and financial goals. And we think about retirement, or, some people say, I don't ever want to retire. I don't know that we will. We enjoy what we do, but I want to be able to. I want to have the freedom to make those choices. But if you don't know where you're going with specific targets in mind, you're just wandering aimlessly in the desert, right? You're showing up every day and you're doing whatever you're doing. And a lot of us think that if we're investing, 5% or 3% in our current company's matched account, that we're going to have enough at the end of the day. And the reality of it is we need to look at that. We need to know that. And your goals are important in this because you want to know where you're going, but you also want to know why you're saving, because you don't really get somewhere without sacrificing in most cases. You got to change something that's going on now to get you to a different place. So writing it down makes goals 40 to 50% more likely to be attained just because they're written down. If you read them and look at them every day, that'll go up another 25%. So that's very, very, very important to understand, that know where you're going. And so that's why we start with that exercise, is so that when we get into the numbers and we get into the conversation, it's easier for the person to see what their ultimate goal is and why they're making the changes that they're making.
So after we've had that goal setting session, and after we have those conversations about who they want to be when they grow up, and their magical fairy tale in their mind, whatever that is. Some people want to rock on their front porch, and some people want to drink mimosas on their yacht. Doesn't really matter to me, as long as that's what they believe and that's what they're buying into. But once we do that, then we transition into a true financial inventory, if you will, and we start talking about those 4 pillars of personal finance. What are those 4 pillars? It is simple. It's assets, liabilities, income, expenses. So those are the 4 areas of their life that we're going to focus on. And we're going to talk about, all right, where are you right now? So these are our goals and dreams. This is where we want to be. All right, great. Tell me where you are right now. Tell me about, right? And so then we're going to talk through these different areas. So with your personal financial inventory, let's talk about your assets. What are assets? I think assets, quite simply put, is something that you can turn into cash if you need to, right? So examples of assets could be a checking account, a savings account, right? Those are very common. A 401k, your IRA, any whole life or cash value life insurance policies. What about a car collection? Could that be an asset?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as long as it has value, right? Maybe not your everyday car, because a lot of times our everyday cars are depreciating assets. So they're a lot of times they, especially if we didn't pay cash for them right? If we've got a loan on them, a lot of times that kind of rolls hand in hand with what that is. But a lot of times, just think through those assets and really sit down and make that list. What do I have? Do I have any old 401ks? Every single time I sit down with a client, I ask them those questions. You kind of see their brain start thinking back through all the jobs and places that they've worked. A lot of people leave a lot of money on the table because they forget about old 401ks and old IRAs and old pensions and companies that they used to work for. So really go through and make that exhaustive list of your assets. And if you don't have an exhaustive list, then let's start making a list, right?
Yeah, and anything that even if you have a loan, if it's a vehicle or if it's a home or a piece of property, whatever, anything that you owe less than it's worth, there's an asset there. There's money that could be, it might have to be sold, right? Not just reached in and pulled out, but those count. Those are assets, and we use those down the road. So any pensions that might come to you later from a military service or something like that, also make sure that those make it onto that list.
And then step 2 is let's talk about your liabilities. Every time, our initial meetings with our clients are very conversational. I don't want to say, what's your social? I don't want to have sit behind my computer and pound my screen. I just want to talk to you about who you are, where you want to be, where you are right now, and help you create those goals and that plan to get you there. So it's very conversational. I ask a lot of questions, but I say, tell me about most of the time. So tell me about your liabilities. So as you're putting this down on your paper and as you're going through your own personal financial inventory, look at your liabilities. What are those? What is a liability? What are you paying on a monthly basis that you have to pay every single month? Not just your power and your water and that kind of stuff, because that's more of an expense, but your liabilities. Think about car loans, think about student loans, think about credit cards, think about installment loans or furniture debt or something like that you don't think about. Do you owe a family member, right? Did somebody, were they kind enough to loan you some money? And so you owe them too, even if it doesn't actually show up on your credit report, and write those liabilities down. I think for most people, they don't ever put all of that in one place. So when they look at it, sometimes it's not comfortable, right? Sometimes it's not a great conversation that you want to have, but the only way to move forward is to just attack it head on. So put those liabilities on paper, and then I want you to do a couple of different things. I want you to put how much you owe, like your entire balance. And then I also want you to put what your minimum payment is and your actual payment. And if you only make the minimum payments, great, fine. But if you overpay anything, whether it's a car or your mortgage or your credit cards or your student loans or whatever, write that down, because I see that for a lot of people, that's an area where we might tweak some conversations, right? If you're overpaying 5 different credit cards, maybe we just overpay one. Maybe we just change that mindset, and I know it doesn't make you feel comfortable just to make the minimum payment, but it'll go a lot faster if we overpay one and then, debt snowball that into another one. So we always ask all of those questions on the liability page. So as you guys are doing that, and as you're putting your own personal financial inventory together, look at your liabilities and look at those pieces of minimum payment, actual payment, and let's see where your money is actually going.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening. And the goal here is to find the baseline, to find the starting point, not to beat yourself up, not to We do that a lot with folks. They say, well, I don't even want to talk about credit card debt. I'm just embarrassed. Say, well, that's what we do, right? That's what we're here for. It's no reason to beat yourself up or get embarrassed. It's trying to figure out where you are and how to get from there to where you want to be. And that's the whole goal with a financial plan or a financial strategy, is taking you from where you are to where you want to be. So this is the beginning of that process of just diving in, putting it all on paper where you can go, oh, okay, there is a way, there is a plan, instead of sweeping it under the rug, or even if you're not deep in credit card debt, but you might not be saving enough to do what you think you're going to do at the end of the day. This puts you at an absolute starting point, and then from there you realize what you have to do, and that's a very big part of a good plan.
So the third area that we want you guys to look at is, your income. How much money do you make, right? Where is this money coming from? A lot of people, it's 2023, right? So side hustle and entrepreneurship and extra businesses are all the rage. Everybody's doing it. Where I think when we first started in this world, we were school teachers, and some of you guys remember that, some of you don't, but that was almost 20 years ago now. But I remember the bookman that came to school, right? And I remembered some teachers had Mary Kay and Avon, but outside of that, that wasn't very common for people to have multiple side gigs or multiple extra pieces. Now they do, right? So think about your income. Think about where all it's coming in from, right? Do you cut grass too? And do you have this job? What does that look like? But your income is everything that's coming into you from wherever it's coming from. And really put that on paper. As you're going through this plan, you're looking for disposable income and then discretionary income. Disposable income is still going to go and count into your plan, like your power bill and your groceries and your gas and things like that. Discretionary income is truly that amount of money that you have left over. So look through that. And then the fourth pillar is expenses, right? So expenses, what are you spending outside of your liabilities? What is your power? What is your estimated food budget? What is your estimated gas budget? Do you need clothes? Do you need them every month? Or is there a budget for the year? What does that look like? So then you really have a great idea of where you are. And like Zack said, you have a great idea of your baseline.
Yeah. And when it comes to moving forward, right? The big piece that a lot of folks don't focus on is income. A lot of times we think income is one number, right? And that's what we've dealt with for years. And like Kimberly said, that's changed a little bit now, where people it's more common to have multiple streams of income. But when we started, we wanted an extra $500 a month, basically. We had 2 kids in daycare and everything was really tight. And so Kimberly was introduced to the mortgage and financial planning world, and they said, you can work part-time, you're put into it, you get out of it what you put into it. And all we wanted was an extra $500 a month. And that changed into a complete right-hand turn and a career change for both of us. But looking at income is incredibly important, not just focusing on your expenses. Because if you think about it, look at that budget and say, what if I did make an extra $500 a month? When you get all of this on paper, say, how much difference would that make? I think the average bankruptcy in the country is caused by a $500 a month swing. So that's how tight most Americans are on their budgeting and living paycheck to paycheck. So yeah, that's important.
And I think, one of our mentors, I heard him say one time, and it makes so much sense to me, is once you get through all of this exercise, and I really want you to personally go through this for yourselves to see where you are. If you need help with your plan, call us. We're happy to help you. But regardless, put it on paper, look at it and see. But at the very end of it, there are 2 things that I want you to do. The first thing that I want you to do is remember your initial goals. Remember those initial dreams. And I want you to ask yourself, aside from everything that you're currently doing, how much can you afford to set aside on a monthly basis to reach your goals and dreams, right? It's not for me. It's not how much can you afford to invest. It's not, anything. Right. This is for you. This is your conversation. So what is that number? A lot of times, I think budgets are super important, and we're going to talk about this in just a minute. But when I have this initial conversation, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, let me go look at my budget and I need to put all these numbers together and then I'll tell you. And I'm like, honestly, I would much prefer your gut answer, because that's when I know that's what you're committed to. If you have to go back and squeeze everything out of your budget to tell me what your number is, you're not committed to that, because you don't squeeze it out of your budget already. So it's just going to change, and you're not going to keep it. And if you put a plan in place that you don't keep, doesn't really benefit anybody, right? So really be truthful and honest with yourself and understand, what's that gut reaction? How much can you afford to set aside monthly? And remember, this is for you. These are for your goals. But also, like Zack said, no goal that you truly want to reach. Sometimes it takes you being uncomfortable. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a stretch to make such a significant difference in your life. So be willing to do that. And then I think I'll have my next point when we talk about this in just a second.
See that.
I lied. We have a quick little 6-step page that we want to show you guys. I think we're good.
Yep, should be up there now.
Perfect. All right. So once we've gone through this question and answer session with our clients, we usually schedule a second appointment to get back with them. But when in between, a lot of times Zack and I, or if we're working with one of our teammates, then we'll get together with them and we'll go through these 6 steps with every single financial inventory that we take. So look at this for yourself as well. Number 1 is increasing cash flow. So once we've squeezed everything out of our budget that we can, right? We've looked at our income and our expenses and our assets, and we know exactly where we stand. Most of the time, the issue for people isn't that they can't manage their money properly. The issue is that they don't have enough money, right? So in order to reach some of the pieces that they want to reach, they need more money. So this is one of the areas that we talked to them about. I think that's what I was going to say earlier. As one of our mentors said, he said 95% of people spend 95% of their time focused on their income and expenses and trying to manage that, right? And in reality, they can't really go into their boss and say, hey, can I have more money, right? And if they do, that's a one-time thing. You can't do it every month. You can't do it probably every year, right? So instead of focusing so much on that budget, focus on making more income. Spend 95% of your time on additional income sources instead of on how to squeeze your budget into a smaller piece.
Yeah. And that's why we start with that first, because a lot of times that's what people need. Debt management, those kind of things, we've already kind of hit on that. An emergency fund has become more and more important. We've realized since the COVID lockdown, because a lot of people that were in secure jobs lost those jobs or had a real struggle. So, and then steps 4, 5, and 6 are protecting what you've accumulated, and then continuing to accumulate to get to where you want to, and then making sure that it goes where you want it to when everything's finished.
I think, don't stop that share yet. I think that steps 1 through 4, I think that really is the foundation of your house, right? If you're building a house, you have to have a really strong foundation before you then build your walls and your sheetrock and your designer elements and make it as pretty and fancy as you want it to be. Step 4 is life insurance. So that's proper protection, making sure that your family is taken care of in the event of something, happening to you or to your income, or, now life insurance has living benefits. So, what if it's just to protect you if you have a diagnosis? So that's really the foundation of your house. And then I tell people that step 5 and building wealth and retirement, your 401ks and your cash value life insurance and your other real estate assets or whatever that is, that's the fun stuff, right? That's the exciting part. That's sexy money, right? That's talking about, that's my mimosas on my yacht, right? Versus my rocking porch or rocking chairs on my porch. But that's where we talk about, how to really grow that wealth and look at it. And then step number 6 is obviously preserving it to make sure that it goes to where you want it to go. But we just wanted you guys to have an idea of what does that look like? Do you know your numbers? Do you have any idea where you stand financially? And if you don't, then I think it's a great exercise. You know, a lot of times I think through the years, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety, right, about their finances. A lot of it because they don't know, because they're not willing to just sit down and rip off the Band-Aid and look at it. But when they do, and when they put it all together, all on paper, even if it's not a great, exciting, you know,
Right.
scene, they still feel so much better about where they are because now they can put a plan together to move forward and to get out of that space. So we're going to, obviously, I think we've stopped our share. Why don't we open this up for conversation? Anybody have anything, any questions or anything that they want to add this morning? Hey, Sorrel. I
Hey,
see you.
Zack and Kimberly,
Hey.
you guys are touching on something I love so much. It's like, put a plan together and you'll have something to execute. One of the things that I love is that whether the numbers look bad or not, whenever I've gone through an exercise like that, whether it's about my business, whether it's about my finances, it always ends up revealing to me the next feasible action I can take. And that next feasible action is crazy that the only thing I need to take that next action is whatever it is I have right now.
That's it.
Nothing else.
That's it.
And knowing whatever it is I have right now is so empowering to taking that next step. And if I go back to our question, what time is it? The time is now. Well,
Yeah.
all I ever need to do is take that next step. So I'm excited about that reminder, and that's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, it takes something so simple, right, to put those plans together and to just look at those numbers, but it changes everything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people don't do it because it's so simple. They're like, I don't need it. I know where I am. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Put it together. Put
Take
it
a
on
minute and
paper.
do it. Cece, we see your hand.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you so
morning.
much for the topic. I'm a senior citizen now, so how would one multiply what they do have so that their future, that means I'm gonna get older and get old, can manage taking care of me due to inflation, because inflation has not stopped and the income has not increased yet. So I'm looking for ways to multiply without using physical labor to do so. So I'm planning to get old.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And one of the things that there are a lot of things that you can do on the side that don't require actual physical labor. But if you are truly retired and on a fixed income, and it's going out and starting a new business isn't part of something that you do, there's a way to leverage your network. There's a way to leverage your contacts by developing some referral partnerships with professionals. There are several different people that would love to throw a little bit of side money in your direction if you send them business. So a lot of times you can just serve somewhat as a connector, if you will, and become valuable on if you don't do social media, just through your normal interactions with people in your daily life. Talk to them about what they do, and then talk to them about what the people that you know, and say, maybe I can connect some people with you. And then through that, you can possibly develop some referral partnerships, if you will. We do that a lot with folks. It takes a little bit more to get paid on financial business, but we have several people that will get a license just simply to send us people. We go through the process with them, put the plan together, and then we give them, or we pay them through our channels, a referral, if you will, or we split that as a licensed agent. So there are other people that do the same kind of thing. So that's one way that you can kind of monetize your network, if you will.
I think another piece, and it depends, right? It always depends, and that's always going to be the answer. But if you are a senior citizen and you do have a lump sum that you're worried about spending through, and you're worried about it not, keeping up with inflation or maintaining your income. And I think that's a big concern for most senior citizens, is outliving their money, right? I love the fixed index annuity world for that piece specifically. To guarantee that income, you can set it to increase with inflation, and really have that piece there. But I think, regardless of where we are in life, I think we plan for our minimum, and then everything else is exciting, and we add on to the top of that. So I think that's where you start, is plan for your minimum, make sure that it's there, and that your minimum is fixed and set and you can handle it. And then we can go forward and talk about other things and extra pieces of income. But, lots of different pieces and lots of different options. Some are easy and exciting, and some are a little more painful, but you do have options wherever you are. So,
yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope that was of value. I hope it reminded us all. I know when we think about it, sometimes the simple things are the things that we overlook, right? And we think the world is complicated, but we just need to figure out what our world is like, and what we can control. And I think that's the best place for us to start. So on that note, I want to remind everybody as we sign off this morning of the things we can control and what we can do on a daily basis to make ourselves happier, less stressed people, right? We can love, we can be grateful, we can laugh out loud, have a good time, stress less. Rashida says that it's stressed and stress less and very blessed. Eat right, eat mostly plant-based, take care of your body, give, sleep, get that good sleep, move your body, get up and go. Like Sorrell said this morning, he had that workout before we even came on here. So, and then check yourself before you wreck yourself, guys. Just make sure that give yourself a pause, right, before you react. Well, we are so glad to be here and honored, and we're blessed by this time that we spend with you guys on Mondays. And we're excited to see you same time, same place tomorrow on the Daily Huddle.
bye, guys.
Thank you. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Great presentation.